Welcome to the Mad Profit Podcast, where we interview active investors, entrepreneurs, and experts who left corporate jobs to buy or start successful ventures and live life on their own terms. Listen to their stories, learn from their experiences, and heed their advice so you too can create mad profits and the life you've always wanted. And now, here's your host, Laurent Truc.
Welcome to the Mad Profit Podcast. This is Laurent Truc, your host, and today I have a very special guest with me, Dom Wells from Onfolio. Dom, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Happy to be here.
Excellent, excellent. I've been very much looking forward to having this session. You and I are on a deal together. You've been in the internet space for a very long time. A lot of our listeners are either corporate people or people that are getting into the internet space, so really interested in your knowledge and some of the experiences that you've had. So very much looking forward to having this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could start with a little bit of your background. Love to hear where you started from and kind of how you got to where you are today, if you don't mind giving us some background.
Yeah, sure. It's a 7-year story, so I'll just do the abridged version. But
Okay.
I first got into the space in 2012. I wanted to make some more money, and I was living in Taiwan. So my options in Taiwan were basically teach English, which was a decent job. I had been doing that for 4 years already. But it has a low ceiling. Like, you can make a comfortable salary, but there's no real way to go higher.
Yeah.
And without being fluent in Mandarin or having very specific qualifications, there aren't many other options for you. So online was kind of the only option for me. And so I've found affiliate marketing just through various, just trial and error and lots of research. So I just started building sites, learning what I could, and just learning how to rank websites in Google, how to get traffic to them, how to then monetize that traffic. And yeah, like it took me a while. I think after a year and a half, I was just about making $1,000 a month online.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, it's weird because at the time, obviously a year and a half, I thought this is taking forever. I'm never actually going to be able to do it. But when I look back, I think, oh, a year and a half was quite short. So I guess perspective is very important. But yeah, then I did start getting a bit of success, and right around the end of my second year, or maybe a little bit earlier, I started a company called Human Proof Designs. And the opportunity I had seen was that I noticed people were buying websites off Flipper, which I don't know if you've covered on the marketplace, but on the podcast, but Flipper's a marketplace for buying and selling websites. I guess it's a bit like eBay, but for websites. And I noticed that people were buying a lot of junk websites, like websites where they were basically these turnkey cookie cutter websites. And the seller was just kind of saying, hey, you buy this website, $500, $300, it's going to make you money on autopilot overnight, no effort necessary. And to someone like me who knew a little bit about online business by then, it was an obvious lie. But people were buying them. And I was like, wow, there's clearly a market for these turnkey starter websites. So what if I just did like legit ones where they were unique websites, and I said, you have to follow this game plan and work hard, but this is a business in a box, and you can grow it and build a business and make money online like I do. And that it kind of flopped because people were like, no, we're going to go with the guy who's promising us easy money instead. So I ended up having to stop selling on Flipper, and I built Human Proof Designs into a big brand with content marketing and going on podcasts and just basically what businesses do to get noticed. And eventually, probably after a year, we grew quite well. People started realizing that what we were offering was really cool. They knew that we were legit and we offered good training, and so we then rolled out additional services like SEO services and content services, and basically everything someone needed after they bought this business, we could help them. So it's like, here's a website, you can go off and take this and do your own thing, or you can pay us more and we'll help you with more. And I grew that to the final 2 years. We did $1 million in revenue each year.
Okay.
And then I sold Human Proof Designs in April 2019. So just coming up for a year ago, depending when someone's listening to this. Because I wanted to move into Onfolio. So that's kind of what I'm doing now.
Got it. That's a great journey. So you made a comment that people had decided at first not to jump onto your microsites that you were making and stick with the ones on Flippa because of the promises. So you were obviously a lot more honest about the potential of these sites and the work behind it. Is that what kind of threw people off?
Yeah, I mean, it might be that I wasn't very good at sales either, but
Okay.
I would be like, I was making like $2,000 a month or $1,000 a month at the time with some of my sites. So I was like, hey, buy this site, add some more content to it, do some SEO, and in a year you might be making $1,000 a month from it.
Okay.
And the site was only for sale for like $200. So I thought that's a pretty good offer. And some people bought it, but others were like, it was weird. Some people would be like, you want me to pay $200 for something that's not even making money? And I'd be like, yeah, like people pay $1,000 for an iPhone. But then meanwhile, these like basically scam sites were selling like hotcakes. So I realized I needed to explain to people why, really what my offer was so that they understood. So I started content marketing and blogging at Human Proof Designs. And I just stopped wasting my time at Flippa. Like, I think Flippa has a place, but not for what I was offering. And ironically, the new owner of Human Proof Designs has now partnered with Flippa, and they sell Human Proof Designs turnkey sites on Flippa as like an affiliated partner. So it's kind of gone full circle.
I saw that,
yeah. So it's kind of cool, but also I was like, oh, it's funny how it comes together. So I just started blogging, and I was more doing, here's how you make money from an affiliate site, or here's how you can improve your conversions, or here's how you should structure an affiliate site. And then I would do like guest posts on someone else's blog on a similar subject. And then, it's basically like, here's how you do it. I'll outline all the steps. Or if you want, just pay me some money and my team will build the site for you. And then people, then I started attracting the right people, but also people understood the value and the offer a lot more. And ultimately we built our own audience, and we could put our prices up later. And, we just kind of created some blue ocean before I knew what like blue oceans were. So.
I also found, just before you sold it, I was looking at some of the sites that you were selling, and I think your team got really good at figuring out keyword research and determining what is the potential of some of the sites that you had built, right? So instead of $2,000 a month, like many of them were at the $5,000-$6,000 a month potential, which was a nice return, because a lot of these were, I think some of the ones you sold had about 6 months of activity before you would sell them. So people were not coming in having to build that first 6 months with Google reputation, like they were already of a certain size. So you were selling them for $1,000 to $1,500 with a $5,000 a month potential. It was actually a really nice return for people, it looked like.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of wary at first of listing the potential, because it's, you need to be clear that it's potential. It's like, you're getting this site which has started making inroads into this niche. It's got 10 articles. If you expand it to 100 articles and you do the SEO and the marketing, the potential of this niche is large. And the reason we ended up doing it was so that people could see the potential, but also so that people could compare. Because when I first listed sites, people would be like, well, I don't know if I want the dog site or if I want the sewing site. And I say, well, which one do you prefer? And they'd say, well, whichever one's got more potential. So I started showing, well, this one's got more potential. And then, you know, of course, everyone just went for the one with the most potential. And then we were pretty good at explaining that it's like, we're not guaranteeing this is going to happen. Like, we rarely had anyone say, you said this would make $10,000,
Yeah.
and it doesn't, because we owned the messaging, so people understood what we were saying.
Well, and there's so many factors too, between, you know, the quality of the content you're putting up, the amount of money you're investing in, Google algorithm changes. So no matter what promises you could have made, most of that was not in your control anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if you don't do the work, then you're not going to see the results.
Yeah. So then you sold Human Proof Designs, and then you went on to Onfolio. So had you had the vision of Onfolio before you sold Human Proof Design, and it was about getting out of Human Proof Design because that's what you wanted to invest your time into?
Yeah. I mean, I'd already started Onfolio. Part of that was because it's a lot easier to sell Human Proof Designs and transition into Onfolio if it's already there. It's a lot harder to say to a buyer, hey, I want to start this other thing, but don't worry, they're unrelated, but they're kind of related. So it's a lot easier to have it and say, well, this one already exists, and so does this one, but I'm leaving this one, and, you know, we'll make sure to define boundaries and so on. But also, yeah, I wanted to validate the idea for Onfolio, and I wasn't 100% sure, like, should I run them as separate brands or should I leave one and focus on the other? So I started Onfolio and was like, well, let's see what happens. Validate the brand. And then I realized Onfolio, I don't know if it had more potential than Human Proof Designs, but it was more aligned with what I wanted to do. It was what I was more interested in. So I felt like I'm kind of going to just like neglect Human Proof Designs if I stay. So if I leave, Human Proof Designs can grow, and also Onfolio can grow because I'm not being pulled in too many directions. And yeah, both brands have grown since it happened. So like, it was a good decision.
So what is Onfolio? Can you give a bit of a detail in terms of kind of the idea and what it is, and if the idea has come to fruition?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, we've evolved a lot over the last 18 months. But so the original idea was twofold. One was people who already have websites but don't want to run them anymore will run for them. And I thought that idea was going to be more popular, but it's actually less popular and we don't like it as much. So we're kind of less excited about that. Whereas the other idea is basically people have money, they want to buy a website, like an established website, maybe a website making $1,000 a month or more. But they don't want to lose their shirt, they don't want to lose their money. So they'll say to us, can you help me buy one and then run it for you, for me? So that's what we do. We basically, so we don't like take the investor's money and go spend it. It's more like we're kind of like consultants or partners. So we say, hey, that website looks really good. It fits your budget. Here's why we like it. Here's what we don't like or what's kind of a risk. And if you're okay with that risk, let's buy it. If you're not okay, what could we do to mitigate it? Or should we just look at a different one? And then, yeah, we kind of walk them through the process. We help them buy it, and then we run it for them afterwards. So essentially, we're kind of like property managers in real estate. That kind of. I guess we're also like the asset managers as well, because we're at both stages. And that, I wasn't sure how popular that was going to be. I wasn't sure if people would trust us or if there was enough demand. Turns out there's way more demand than I thought.
Really?
So
excellent.
Yeah, that's been really, really good. Yeah. So at the beginning of 2019, we said our minimum was $30,000, like a purchase price, because anything lower than that, there's not really enough for us to charge a fee and the investor to get cash flow and returns.
Right.
But then after a few months, we were like, okay, 50,000 is our minimum, and now $75,000 our minimum.
Wow, great.
And even $75,000 is a little bit small for us, to be honest. So yeah, there's a lot of money looking to pour into the space, and it's looking for people like Onfolio. So we're in a fortunate position to kind of, be able to do that service like very well, just responding to a lot of demand.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So how many sites do you have under management now?
About 35.
Wow.
Some of them are ours and some of them are with aforementioned partners.
And that's within, you said you started it less than 2 years ago?
Yeah, I registered the domain November 2018. So now it's January 2020. So what's that? That's like 14 months, 15 months. So.
Oh, very good. So what do you look for when you're going to buy a site for someone else or with someone else? First of all, is it all about the site, or is the individual's passion or like personal taste, does that matter? Because at the end of the day, you guys are running it. They seem like they're silent partners. So is that part of the equation?
It matters to some people because some people want to be a little bit more involved in terms of like strategy or something like that. Or even might even be a strategic acquisition. Like some people have other websites in a certain vertical and they want to like have add-ons. The vast majority of people are what I call niche agnostic. So they're really just interested in the opportunity. Yeah, so most of the time it's just the right site for the right price. And where we sometimes disagree on is what the right price is. But again, that's the value I add, is I can tell if something's a good value or if it's expensive or if it's cheap. And it's not always based on the multiple. The multiple is actually pretty relative. So yeah, I mean, what I look for. So just to be specific, we only focus on content websites. So e-commerce, FBA, that's not somewhere we look.
Okay.
So there would be a different criteria for people who want to buy an e-commerce business. But for a content website, we look for, I do it in 2 stages. The first stage is don't lose your money. And the second stage is grow your money. Because content websites are sold at a multiple where even if you don't grow it, you can still achieve a 40% ROI. Obviously it's less if you're paying me fees, but that's kind of like how the numbers work out if someone just bought it and operated it by themselves. Now, obviously you want to grow it, but if you don't grow it and you get 40%, that's not something to be upset about.
Right.
Whereas if you go for one because you see this amazing growth opportunity, but in the process you overlook a red flag and you get 0% ROI, that's kind of what I'm trying to avoid. So it's like Warren Buffett's number 1 rule is don't lose money, and number 2 rule is don't forget rule number 1.
Right.
So when I look at a website, I'm looking for, will this deal make sense if I don't grow it? So am I paying too much? Will the website be around in a year? And you can never know for sure, but there's definitely some things that can help increase the chances of that. Have they done any kind of dodgy backlink building? How long has the website been around? Has it been successful for a month, or has it been successful for a year or more? What is the niche? Is it fidget spinners? Probably not the best long-term niche. Or is Pokemon Go, crypto, maybe these ones are not going to be around, or at least they might not earn the same as they were before. So I look at things like that. Has the website just had it's just gone on a tear recently and it's made a bunch of money, which is unsustainable. Yeah, so I look at all of those things, and then once I'm done looking at those things, then I look at the opportunities. So how much space is there to grow in the niche, how much space is there to grow in terms of their traffic, and then also making more money from the existing traffic. So for example, a lot of websites, they rank maybe number one for a keyword like best, best sterilizer. You can tell I recently had a baby.
New dad.
Yeah, I'm just sitting right next to a sterilizer, like, oh, that'll do. And maybe they rank number one and they've got an article, but the article's got like one Amazon affiliate link, or it doesn't have a comparison table. And these are all things where you can see, oh, if I buy this site and add those things in, I can probably make a revenue increase right off the bat. So if I see stuff like that, that's great. Because like I said, yeah, the first thing you want to make sure is that you're not going to lose your money. But if there's two websites where you're not going to lose money, obviously you want to go for the one that has more upside. So, you know, that's kind of basic. So what I am less interested in is kind of like, I don't really know how to describe it. I guess it's like uncertain upside or assumed upside. So there's definitely a lot of people who come up with creative ways to fail to make money. So, you know, you look at a website and you think, oh, the email list hasn't been touched for 2 years. I can totally make money by just sending emails. And when in reality, you've just got an email list of people that are never going to open an email from you. Or they say, this website's homepage is terrible. If I make it look pretty, it will make so much more money. And it's like, yeah, you should make it look prettier, but you don't know for sure if it's going to make you any more money. So these are all things where it's like, yeah, you could do that, but that's not the reason you should buy the website. You should buy it because of stuff that you know. So it's like, okay, I'm going to look at everything I know. I know I can add tables, and tables 90% of the time increase revenue. I know the website is stable, and you look at all of those things, and if it still makes sense to buy it, even if it means buying it a little bit more expensive than another website, that's the I'll get excited about.
Got it.
So,
do you buy with a certain time horizon in mind? I mean, some industries seem to move very quickly. Are you quasi flipping that in 2 years you're planning on getting rid of it, or do you try to buy and hold?
Really depends on the investor.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people are kind of keen on the idea of like a quick flip. I'm less bullish on quick flips because going back to what I was just saying, it tends to lead you towards distressed websites. Where you're like, this website's been in free fall, I can get it for a discount and I can buy it and turn it around and it's a fixer-upper. But it's like, yeah, but what if you do all that and it doesn't pay off and you're just stuck holding a kind of crap website? There's a reason, you know, that someone's selling that particular website. So of course, yeah, if I could 2x a website in a short period of time, maybe I would just sell it. I think once you stop making improvements, the ROI actually reduces the longer you hold it for. But at the same time, the cash flow is really good. So we kind of go with what I think in private equity is known as flexible ownership. So it's like, well, we're probably going to hold it for 2 years, but we will reassess as we go. We may hold it longer. We may sell it earlier if we think there's a reason. And those reasons could be the niche is becoming less interesting. You know, like, oh, we've got this DVD player site. People aren't buying DVD players anymore. You know, or what else? Or you just think the website's losing ground to its competitors, or there's another opportunity and you can take the money off the table and put the money into that website. Or just maybe you think a recession's coming, it's better to take money off the table now before that. So that, you know, there's a few reasons why you might want to sell early, or why you may want to keep going. Like maybe the site is still responding to your efforts and you think, well, hold it another 6 months, I could sell it for double. So So generally what we do is we just give advice to our investors and say, here's what we think, and take take from that what you will.
Is there an opportunity now that you've grown your base of managed sites to 30 plus, where you can use some of the assets from one for another? Like if there's a mailing list on one website in a specific niche and you just bought another one, are you able to cross sell and upsell and leverage that? It sounds like you got a really interesting base of sites now that you can play off each other.
Yeah, we haven't done that a lot, but we are getting to that stage.
Okay.
So there's some other advantages as well. Like there's a couple of more boutique display advertise companies who they don't take as big a cut as some of the more famous ones like AdThrive or Mediavine do.
Mm-hmm.
And they normally only work with publishers who say have 2 million page views a month on their website. And none of our websites have 2 million page views a month, but our portfolio has like 5 million page views a month.
Oh, okay, cool.
So they're willing to make those kind of exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
So we can just get more privileged kind of deals like that. And yeah, there are some sites that are in similar niches, and it's always an interesting one because I might say to an investor, hey, this site's good, I think we should buy it. By the way, one of our other investors has a similar site, and then they might think, oh, I don't want to compete with one of your other people. And my argument is, well, someone owns that site anyway.
Right.
It kind of makes sense. It's better if it's like, we're all in the same team rather than it's just a person that you don't know. But also the sites can then kind of club together to negotiate better deals with vendors, or they can cross promote via email lists and so on. So yeah, we haven't done a lot of that, but we will. Yeah,
it's a huge opportunity. Cool.
Yeah,
very cool. So let me ask you this: so people who may want to get into this field, obviously working with you makes it easy. It's okay. You guide me. You take my money. You manage it. I'm great. If somebody wants to kind of own their own site, what do you recommend in terms of resources, like education, things like that, for them to get more in tuned with this this industry? Anybody you follow specifically that you respect in terms of quality of content and knowledge?
Yeah, for sure. It's an interesting one because a lot of the best training is not aimed at flipping or buying websites. It's more aimed at building, like bootstrapping and building sites from scratch. But if you went through those trainings, you're going to learn the kind of fundamentals that will still benefit you if you're buying a site. So the courses I generally recommend, of course, Human Proof Designs has got a bunch of resources and services for beginners. Also, Authority Hacker has some good courses, and Matt Diggity has Affiliate Lab, which also has some great resources. And we generally share a lot of those resources with our team. So it's like, rather than train you ourselves, we'll just say, hey, go take this training. But then more in the website investing space, the Quiet Light brokerage podcast is very good. The Empire Flippers blog, and they don't really podcast anymore, but if you go back and listen to a lot of their historical episodes, they're very good. FE International, they don't actually really have much content, to be honest. Like their blogs, it's okay, but they just don't blog much. And I recorded a podcast with them about 4 years ago, and they never ended up publishing their podcast.
Really?
So yeah, they recorded a bunch of episodes and then were like, yeah, we should release this one day. And I was like, well, we recorded it 3 years ago. So I guess they're not going to publish them. Yeah. So they're a good resource in the space, but I don't know how much you can actually get from them, like, because they don't have much that's digestible. And there's some people, they want to go to Flipper and buy a website for $5,000 and learn that way. And if it crashes and burns, $5,000 hurts, but it doesn't bankrupt you. I would say that's a good way to dip your feet in, but it's also like a $5,000 website isn't going to necessarily teach you the same thing as a $50,000 website, just because a $5,000 website really is just not got much going on.
Yeah.
So it'll teach you like how to work WordPress and stuff like that, but you can do that with a $500 website. So yeah, I'm not sure if I would recommend that.
Okay.
But definitely browsing Flipper. And Flipper do have I think they're working on their blog right now. They want to launch a lot more sort of world-class blog posts. So maybe
Okay.
their blog will become a really good resource as well. So yeah, I think if someone jumped into all of those that I've mentioned, that's definitely going to like level up their understanding.
Got it. Just some final thoughts. Where do you see the industry heading? I mean, it's gone so far from even the last 3 or 4 years between the increase in multiples, the number of brokers in the industry, the popularity. Do you see a continued growth? Do you see it very much tied to the economy? Like, give me your thoughts on where this thing is heading.
I think it depends on the tier. Like, say, above $1 million, I think more and more micro funds or like very small private equity are coming lower and picking up assets that would not, normally a private equity doesn't care about $1 million
Yeah.
business, but maybe now they're starting to look that way. 500K to $1 million space is always going to be a tough one. It's like too small for some, too big for most. Below like say 100,000, I think it's going to become more competitive, more difficult to get a good site just because there's so many people trying to buy one.
Yeah.
I buy a lot of them and there's just not enough. But I think the space is definitely becoming a lot more professional in terms of, so yeah, just the work that all the good brokers have been doing is paying off. A lot of the scams are gone. People are feeling more comfortable with websites. I'm sure a lot of people listening to your podcast, for example, are realizing websites are like an actual tangible asset class. I don't think you're ever going to get to a space where banks, for example, are going to loan money to buy a content website just because. I mean, if it was personally guaranteed, then yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's going to become more and more professional, and you will see more and more sort of things that you see with other asset classes coming to fruition. In terms of the economy, yeah, I mean, the economy affects everything, so it's going to affect this space. In some ways, I can see arguments for it affecting it in different ways though. Like some people say multiples will go down because sellers might need to sell in a pinch and they'll just take whatever they can get. But at the same time, there's going to be people with like 11 years of bull market stock gains that need to deploy the money somewhere else, and suddenly websites might appeal to them. So that's going to drive up demand. So I don't know what will happen, but I'm sure something will happen there.
Interesting. Well, very good. This has been terrific. Any other thoughts or ideas for somebody who wants to get in the space? Kind of last minute, here's what I would do.
Well, what I did was I learned by building from scratch, and that made me very comfortable with websites as an asset class. So as I became sort of richer, I guess, and had more money to actually invest in, I started learning about investing and then put the two together and was like, whoa, this is fantastic. If someone wants to go that route, I don't know if it's the best route because it took me like 2 or 3 years of learning to become really familiar with the asset class. So I would say that's definitely not a bad route to go. If you want like a kind of a quicker version, probably buying smaller established websites will help you learn faster. Like a $3,000 website where you don't even care if you lose the money, you're just paying to learn. Something like that would be good. and just following people like you and our blog and all the ones I mentioned. Really, though, it's just a case of like getting your hands dirty. You're not going to learn anything until you actually try and do it. So that's the sort of tried and tested method in pretty much every industry. So
perfect. Last question for you. In terms of manpower to manage some of these sites, so can you give us a gauge? So Onfolio has 30 plus sites. Like, how big of a team do you need to manage a handful of sites?
Not as big as you would think, but again, like what takes me an hour a week might take someone else 10 hours a week. So I can have a team of people that can very efficient, and we get a lot of economies of scale. So, you know, how my team operates, this conversation for another time, I think. Just for someone who's thinking, oh, I want to buy a couple of websites, build a portfolio and build my own team, I think that's probably a more valuable answer. So the average website, let's say a $50,000 website, publishes 3 or 4 articles a month and builds backlinks and does all the other stuff. It really doesn't need that much work. It needs maybe 5 to 10 hours a week of my work. So, you know, if you know what you're doing and all else is equal, and so you can run it with like 2 or 3 virtual assistants or like intern type people. Or even you can outsource a lot of it to service providers, but that will cost more. So depending on your profit margins and so on. So a small portfolio of like 5 sites could be run with a small, nimble team. I think the hardest part for most people is knowing how to build that team and who to. The bit that's hard is the strategy. And so if you know the strategy and you know, okay, I need a keyword researcher, I need a writer and a uploader, like someone who understands WordPress or you know, HTML or whatever, and I need an SEO, and I know exactly what roles they're going to do. It doesn't require a lot of manpower. If you don't know any of those things, that's kind of the problem that Onfolio solves. So I don't have another recommendation.
You shouldn't have, no.
Because I mean, we solved that problem, so there wasn't a solution really before us. So I don't know what to recommend there. Just try to learn all of those things that I said you need to learn.
Very good. That's perfect. That's great advice. I appreciate it. Why don't we end it here? I'd love to have you on maybe down the road as Onfolio continues to grow and as even the audience base here continues to grow and pick your brain a bit more. If you're willing to do that, that'd be terrific. But Tom, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. This was fantastic.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Mad Profit Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, or the listening platform of your choice. Also, check us out at madxcapital.com for more useful information and resources to help you achieve your investing, entrepreneurial, and business goals. See you next week on the Mad Profit Podcast.